Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cohen back again today with another video. The trade deadline. It's finally over. We finally made it through. It was a wild last few hours, especially. So many trades went down after yesterday was boring as hell. Nothing happened. Today, we finally got a ton of trades, and I'm excited to talk about all of them with you guys. There are about 14, if I counted correctly. If I forgot one, let me know in the comments below, but I'm pretty sure I've got every single trade here. So, going to go through each one of them. Some super in-depth, some not as in-depth, probably some of the lower profile moves. And yeah, so I'll just go ahead and give you my quick thoughts. These are all immediate reactions. I'm just going straight off how I feel right here in the moment. I could be very wrong. Some of these trades could be great moves for one team that I think are bad for them, or whatever. It's all my opinion. So let me know what your opinions were in the comments below. Let me know how you thought your team did in today's trade deadline. If your team didn't make any moves, let me know why you're pissed about that, or if you're happy about that. Also, we got the buyout market coming up, so I can talk a little bit about some of those moves that might end up happening in relation to some of these trades. We'll see. In addition to the trades, though, there were some big names that did not get traded. Kyle Lowry, Lonzo Ball, two guys that everyone thought was going to get moved after last night, where Kyle Lowry went off the court crying, looked like he was going to get moved, and he just didn't. And we'll see what the repercussions of that are, but I'll talk about that a little bit towards the end of the video. So yeah, go ahead, drop a like, drop a subscribe, comment below how'd your team do, and I'll get into the trades. So first trade we have is Nikola Vucevic, probably the biggest trade of the day. It's Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu to the Chicago Bulls for a 2021 and 2023 first round pick, Wendell Carter Jr. and Otto Porter Jr., who looks like a potential buyout candidate. I made a whole video talking about this, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't seen it already for more in-depth thoughts. I won't go super in-depth on it just because, like I said, I made that video, but I thought the Magic could have gotten a little bit more for Vucevic. I thought they were going to, especially since they gave up Al-Farouq Aminu, who, to be fair, wasn't in their future plans, but can still be a productive player at times. I thought they could have gotten more than a 2021 and a 2023 first round pick, especially since I think that 2021 pick is going to be outside the lottery. When you give a team like the Chicago Bulls, which are already trying to compete for a playoff spot, another all-star Nikola Vucevic, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think the Bulls do end up making the playoffs with this trade, and good for them. Good for Arturas Konyshovas for making those moves. I don't know if I said his name right there. If I didn't, let me know. But shout out to him for making moves to try and get this team out of the gutter. They've been in there for a while. They haven't made any noise since Jimmy Butler left, and now they're finally trying to return to relevance, picking up another all-star, showing Zach LaVine you're serious about winning, and maybe trying to win over some potential free agents down the line. I'm not sure, but shout out to the Bulls. I thought this was a great move. I love this for the Bulls. Thought the Magic could have gotten a little bit more, but I'm very happy that they did decide to blow it up, as we'll see, especially with a few more of these trades. Good for the Magic. The Magic needed to do something. I'm glad they decided to move on. And even if those picks are outside of the lottery, there's potential to find a lot of studs outside of the lottery, so good for them. Next up, my team, the Thunder, surprisingly only made one trade. I thought we were going to make at least two, maybe three, maybe four. We only ended up making one move, and that was George Hill to the 76ers. We got Tony Bradley from them in 2 second-round picks, as well as Austin Rivers. The Sixers also picked up Ignas Brazdeikis from the Knicks, and the Knicks got Terrence Ferguson from the Sixers. It's a pretty confusing trade. Let me know if you got all that. But in the end, what really matters is that we traded George Hill to the Sixers. They gave us Tony Bradley and 2 second-round picks. Austin Rivers as well, but he might get bought out. I'm not sure yet. For right now, though, I'm super happy with the return for George Hill. That was all I could have hoped for, was a couple picks, a young player in Tony Bradley who's been playing really well for the 76ers in Joel Embiid's absence. I couldn't really ask for more. I'm really happy with Sam Presti pulled off. I did expect him to move Mike Muscala at least, maybe less so Justin Jackson. I thought Al Horford was a long shot, and as we see, he didn't get moved. But I'm happy with our deadline. I thought we got probably the best asset we had on the entire team in terms of veterans in George Hill. Off the team, he wasn't playing anyways, so good for him. Heading to a spot where he can help the Sixers compete for a championship, which, being said, I also like this for the Sixers. As I said earlier, did not end up getting Kyle Lowry. No one did. And so I'm happy that the Sixers ended up getting another piece to try and make that Eastern Conference a little more interesting. George Hill definitely adds a lot. He's been great for the Thunder in the time he's played for us outside of injury. It's cool for him. Tony Bradley, happy to get him. Austin Rivers, think he's going to get bought out, so I don't think he'll play very much here. And then the Knicks getting Terrence Ferguson, cool, I guess. I guess just switching one player they don't play for another one that they might also not play. So not a lot from the Knicks there. Moving on, though, Aaron Gordon, another big trade. Like I said, the Magic really took the time today to blow this thing up, and I'm super happy about it. I made a video like a month, 2 months ago, maybe, probably more like a month and a half, where I talked about how the Magic should blow it up, and maybe they watched it, because they blew it up. Aaron Gordon got traded to the Denver Nuggets for Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a first-round pick. I like this a lot for both sides. I thought the Magic got a pretty good haul for Aaron Gordon. Gary Harris, while overpaid, still has some potential. Maybe you could try and salvage something out of him, and if not, then whatever, it's just salary filler. RJ Hampton, I really liked him in the draft. I think he's a really good prospect, super young. He was never going to get the opportunities that he truly wanted on the Denver Nuggets, and now is a bigger chance for him to try and thrive. And a first-round pick. Always good to get a first-round pick as well in there. Aaron Gordon, I think, adds a lot to the Nuggets. He's a solid rebounder, solid playmaker, solid scorer. He's just good at everything. He's not great in anything, but he's solid at everything. And they needed someone to help take the load off of Nikola Jokic. They got that. He's not going to be a superstar or like an all-star caliber player or anything, but he's a really, really good role player. And I could say, you could probably say he's like around that star, below star tier. He's just really solid. He's going to replace Jeremy Grant from last season. And like I said, Nikola Jokic needs some help in that front court. You can now move Paul Millsap to the bench. You could roll out Michael Porter Jr. at the 3 and a starting lineup of maybe like a Jamal Murray, a Will Barton, who they did end up keeping. Solid move from them to end up keeping him. Michael Porter Jr., a Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. That's a scary lineup. That's a lineup that can do some damage in the Western Conference. I don't think this necessarily makes them favorites or anything, but it definitely makes them more dangerous. So shout out to the Nuggets for getting a deal done. Now, another one of the big ones, Victor Oladipo finally did get moved. It took all the way up until after the deadline. We didn't find out until after 3 p.m. Eastern time when the deadline hit that Victor Oladipo was moved, but the Heat made the move. They didn't end up getting Kyle Lowry, so they decided, okay, we're going to get Oladipo and another move for a guy that we'll talk about later, but Oladipo was the big one. And they didn't give up anything. What they gave up was nothing. It was nothing at all. Avery Bradley, who is hurt and doesn't play that much, Kelly Olynyk, who they didn't need anyways, and a pick swap to the Houston Rockets. The Rockets got robbed. I know Oladipo's value is low, but there's no way it was this low, right? I feel like there had to have been some better offer out there. Maybe they were just desperate to move on from him, and this was the Heat's best offer. I don't know. But really what this looks like isn't... If you think about it in the context of the James Harden trade, this means that what they got for James Harden was Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a bunch of first-round picks. That's it. They didn't get any young players. They didn't get Karis LeVert. They didn't get Jared Allen. They got Victor Oladipo, who they then flipped for Avery Bradley, Kelly Olynyk, and a pick swap that they're not going to use next year because it's next year, and the Rockets are going to be bad again. Unless the Heat face significant injuries, they're going to be way better than the Rockets. So the pick swap doesn't even matter. So it's Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk. It's not good. The Rockets continue to disappoint. And now I have to rely on Kelly Olynyk and Avery Bradley, and Kelly Olynyk might even get bought out. So this really just also hurts the Rockets in terms of trying to, or it hurts the Thunder, I guess, in terms of trying to get the Rockets pick. Maybe this was just a tank move for the Rockets. They're like, okay, we're going to get not very good players. We're just going to tank this season. And I get it. That does make sense. They want to keep their pick, which is top 4 protected. But as a Thunder fan, this hurts. And it's a terrible return overall for James Harden, in my opinion. I think they could have gotten a lot more. I really think they should have kept Karis LeVert and Jared Allen. Whatever. On the Heat side of things, though, love this pickup. Like I said, you got him for nothing. You got him for a bag of chips and a Coke. And you get a player who, if he finds what he had previously, is an all-star for basically nothing. And I think Victor Oladipo is going to be way more effective in his role in Miami because he's, in terms of Victor Oladipo, he's not at this point a guy who should be handling the ball a ton. And so you have guys like a Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, all these different guys that can help handle the ball, that can set up Victor Oladipo for looks. Victor Oladipo literally just has to sit there and be a role player, and he's going to be super successful. I love this for the Miami Heat, and especially if they're able to pick up LaMarcus Aldridge in the buyout market, the Heat look dangerous, and I think this adds another element to this Eastern Conference. Look out for the Miami Heat, man. I shouldn't have to tell you that because they made the finals last season, but look out for the Miami Heat. Now, another pretty big one, the Raptors, even though not trading Kyle Lowry, did make a few moves. The biggest move that they made was finally dealing Norman Powell for Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood from the Trailblazers. I think this is a great pickup for the Raptors. Gary Trent Jr. is really good, and he's really young too. If he turns out to be your shooting guard of the future next to Fred VanVleet, you have your backcourt set for the future. Now, is he going to need to be paid very soon? Yes, you're going to have to pay Gary Trent Jr. a solid amount of money, I think, because some teams are going to offer him a lot more money than he's worth. You know, it's the price you pay. But I think Gary Trent Jr. is a great pickup for this team. In terms of the Trailblazers, Norman Powell at this point is kind of just like a better Gary Trent Jr. if he keeps performing the way he did in Toronto. We'll see if he continues to perform at that level. But for a win-now move, I think this worked out really well for both sides. This was one of my biggest win-win trades of the day. Good for both sides. Rajon Rondo for Lou Will is our next trade. Also, 2 second-round picks to the Atlanta Hawks for Rajon Rondo. I didn't like this. I thought this was a great trade for the Hawks, who Rondo hasn't played that much for them anyways, and he's been hurt a lot of the time. To get Lou Will, another guy who just probably won't play too much, and if you do play him, he's a solid, capable bench scorer. He gives the Hawks another guy who can come and bring in some buckets, even though they don't really need that. They have a lot of guys who can score, but you can never have too much scoring. You beat teams 150 to 148 some nights, and 2 second-round picks for, like I said, a guy who really didn't play for them, as well as some cash, but that's whatever. For the Clippers, I know they needed a point guard, but I don't think Rondo's the answer, especially when you have to give up Lou Will, who, even though he hasn't been very good this season, he was a bench scorer for you, and sometimes you need that. I feel like this is a big loss for them in terms of their scoring output. If Rondo doesn't turn his season around, and like I said, he's been bad this season. I know there's the whole playoff Rondo thing. I know he always turns it up there, but you have to be concerned. And if he does not turn it around, this is going to look like a terrible trade for the Los Angeles Clippers. I hope he is able to play up to the level that they think he's capable of, but we'll see. Right now, don't like this. Don't like this at all for the Clippers. I think they could have done better. Now we move into the Miami Heat again. The other player that they ended up getting was Nemanja Bjelica. They got him for Mo Harkless and Chris Silva, sent to the Kings for, like I said, Nemanja Bjelica. This trade's kind of whatever for the Kings. Bjelica wasn't playing. You get Chris Silva, cool, and you get Mo Harkless. Maybe he has something still left in the tank. But Nemanja Bjelica for the Heat, I think it was a good pickup. It's a low risk. Harkless and Silva didn't do much for you anyways. And if Bjelica is able to find what he had previously in previous seasons, he's a sniper. And that you can never have too many shooters on a team. So once again, good trade for the Heat. I thought the Heat had an incredible deadline. Next, we get into JJ Redick, who a lot of people thought was going to be a buyout guy, going to the Dallas Mavericks, as well as Nikola Melli for James Johnson, Wesley Iwundu, and a 2021 second-round pick. This is whatever for both sides. The Pelicans get some pieces for a guy that they were going to buy out anyways, so cool for them. For the Mavericks, I think this is solid because they do miss the shooting of Seth Curry. They ran a lot of dribble handoffs with, you had a screener handing the ball off to Seth Curry last season, as well as a lot of Luka Doncic driving kicks. JJ Redick, even though he hasn't been great this season, he's always going to be able to shoot the ball at a decent clip. And with Luka Doncic driving and kicking out to him, you can't sag off JJ Redick because he's going to knock down that shot. It just makes them more of a threat. And for a team that's trying to make a playoff run, why not add him? So good pickup for them. I like it. A trade that I kind of feel like went under the radar. Evan Fournier for 2 second-round picks. Evan Fournier to the Boston Celtics, that is, for 2 second-round picks. This is a great trade for Boston. Evan Fournier is really good. He's averaging just under 20 points per game. He's shooting really well from 3 on a lot of attempts. He's good, and he can play solid defense. I think he's probably going to run their 2 spot next to Kemba Walker. You can move Marcus Smart off to the bench, or if you wanted to have some scoring, you could put Fournier on the bench, even though I think he does start in that starting lineup. And for just 2 second-round picks, which is nothing, especially for a team that's trying to contend right now, that's a great trade for them. As for the Magic, I guess they just weren't going to get more for him. I don't love this trade for them, but, it's better to get 2 second-round picks than to let Evan Fournier walk in free agency, and so why not? Why not get 2 second-round picks for them? And like I said, the Magic did a fire sale today. I'm proud of them, and they brought in a bunch of assets, so we'll see how their rebuild progresses. I'm sure they're going to tank to the bottom of the standings now, and that's another team that Thunder have to compete with to try and get that number 1 overall pick. But good for them trying to escape mediocrity by pushing for a top draft pick in a loaded draft class, as well as bringing in a lot of young assets. They did not trade Terrence Ross, who's the last guy I thought they were going to trade, but, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Next, we have kind of a smaller move. The Nuggets picking up JaVale McGee for 2 protected second-round picks from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Good for the Nuggets. Add more front court depth. Like I said, you have to take some pressure off of Nikola Jokic. This is a solid way to do it. JaVale McGee's proven to be a decent role player, and I think he's going to help them out a lot. 2 second-round picks, especially protected ones, is nothing. Maybe you'll even keep them. We'll see. The Cavs, they were going to buy out McGee anyway, so there's no point in not at least trying to get something out of it, and good for them for trying. Moving into the rest of them are kind of smaller trades, but this is the biggest of the smaller trades left. We have the Washington Wizards getting Daniel Gafford and Chandler Hutchinson from the Bulls. You have Luke Cornett and Mo Wagner going to Boston from Chicago and Washington respectively, and Daniel Tice, Javante Green, and Troy Brown Jr. going to the Bulls. I'll start with the Wizards. I guess this trade doesn't do much for me. I guess switch it up a little bit. The Wizards, I thought were going to do way more, and they just didn't. Daniel Gafford has potential. Chandler Hutchinson has potential, but whatever. This doesn't do a lot for them. I think that if they develop into solid players, then yeah, this is a cool trade for them. But the problem is you're trying to win now. You have Bradley Beal, you have Russell Westbrook. This doesn't help you now. So I don't think Chandler Hutchinson is better than Troy Brown Jr., who you dealt for him. I don't think Daniel Gafford's better than Mo Wagner. I don't know. Kind of just a med trade for the Wizards. For the Bulls side of things, Bulls, I think, did a great job again. Javante Green, he can jump out of the building. He's not going to play a ton of minutes for them, but he's a solid guy to have on your roster, I guess. Maybe he'll win a dunk contest for you. Daniel Tice, solid big man. They need solid centers. They picked up Vucevic, obviously. And now trading Daniel Gafford, Daniel Tice can be a really good backup center for you. He was starting for the Boston Celtics pretty much all season. He has been for them for a few years now. And if he's able to be your backup center, that's a lot of center depth you have right there. You also bring in Troy Brown Jr., a guy I really liked from the Washington Wizards that they just never played him. And I'm happy that he's going to get an opportunity on the Chicago Bulls. I don't know how much he's going to play, but with minutes opening up with Otto Porter and Chandler Hutchinson leaving, I hope he slots into the rotation. I really think there is something there with Troy Brown Jr. He just wasn't in the Washington Wizards' long-term plans. And finally, we get to Boston Celtics. I guess. I also don't love this for them. Luke Cornett, he can stretch the floor if you need him to, as well as Mo Wagner. I think they just wanted to add some more shooting. Daniel Tice, last night, he missed a three-pointer to try and win them the game, and they shipped him out the next day for a guy who can shoot better than Mo Wagner. We'll see. He's a decent piece. I think that the shooting is probably what they were looking for there, as well as trying to get under I believe they're trying to get under the luxury tax with this move, or something regarding the salary cap. I think Daniel Tice is getting paid more than Mo Wagner, so that's also part of the move you can think about there. Don't love it. I think I like this trade most for the Bulls, who, in my opinion, if there's one team that might have won the trade deadline, it was the Chicago Bulls. Then you have a bunch of smaller moves. I'll just go through them real quick. DeLon Wright for Corey Joseph and 2 second-round picks. Cool for the Kings, I guess. I guess they're trying to compete since they didn't make any other huge moves. I mean, they traded Bjelica away for 2 guys who are probably worse than him, although Bjelica wasn't playing. I don't know. I guess this is fine. Trading Corey Joseph to the Pistons. The Pistons get 2 second-round picks and a replacement player for a guy that they were probably going to try and deal anyways. Solid trade for them. I don't love this for the Kings. I mean, DeLon Wright's a cool player. I think he does help them improve. I just don't see them as a playoff team right now, so I don't love it. Matt Thomas to the Utah Jazz for a second-round pick. Love this trade for the Jazz. Matt Thomas, not a good defender at all, but he's going to drill threes, and you can never have too many players that drill threes. I thought this was a move, as well as the next move I'm going to talk about, where Terrence Davis was sent to the Sacramento Kings for also a second-round pick. For the Kings, sure, why not pick up a young player for a second-round pick? But I thought these 2 moves for 2 second-round picks were to open up roster spaces to bring in guys for the Kyle Lowry trade that didn't end up happening. So I don't know what the game plan is here. I guess theoretically it could open up spots for a Malachi Flynn potentially to play more minutes. You just get more minutes overall for Van Vliet, more minutes for Gary Trent Jr., kind of just see what you have in that future backcourt. So I get it. I guess it makes sense. It also allows them to tank a little bit more by taking away 2 productive players for second-round picks. And if you don't want those players on your roster, or they're not in your long-term future anyways, why not get assets for them? So that's all the trade deadline trades. Let me know what you thought of these trades. Like I said, it was a lot. I just talked for 18 minutes straight about the trade deadline, and I could talk for another hour. Me and my brother went on Locker Room earlier and talked about the trade deadline. That was a lot of fun. So if you want to see me do that more, go follow me on Twitter, and I'll tweet about that next time I do it, at 3_Cone on Twitter. Drop a subscribe if you like this type of content. I'm going to be giving out grades, I think, for specific teams. I'll probably do like a winners losers type thing for the trade deadline probably tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that, and I will see you guys later. Real one, say bye.